I am California of the past.
I am California of the past.
I am
California of the past.
My name is Helen James, and I'm planning to tell you about how I found a house in Pacifica and with my family. We had 4 small children by 1954. There's no health insurance in those days, so it was not easy to save money when you had 4 children. But we had, and we decided that rather than living in an apartment in San Francisco, it'd be nice to have a house. We looked up and down the peninsula, all around San Francisco. The prices were so high that we heard about these new houses being built in this area on the coast, and we decided that we'd go down and look at those. And we called a real estate dealer. We made a date my husband had the day off. It was Washington's birthday in February. Well, we'd had a terrible storm the 2 days before. It was just awful. But it seemed to clear enough, and we thought we'd drive down here. And we met the real estate agent, and he automatically took us down to Lindemar, where the newest set of houses were being built. So we got down there, and here was a nice new Lindemar rancher house sitting all by itself in a huge field of water with the roof blown off. So the real estate agent just marched us right around, and we went back to Pacific Manor. He says, I know of a nice house here that might be just right for you. So he took us up on the hill, partway up the hill, and there was this little house, nice little rancher on solid concrete slab, really insecure. And by this time it started to rain again. So we went up on the porch, and he hadn't brought a key for this house. But he said, you know, because there was a window right beside the door, he said, I think we could get in through this window. So sure enough, we climbed in the window, and we looked around, and it was warm and secure, and we could hear the rain outside, and we said, we'll take it. So with that, we bought a house in Pacific Manor, a resale, for $10,500 in 1954, and we were not sure if we could pay for it. That was a lot of money in those days. However, we did, and we lived there for about 10 years before we moved down to Lindemar. I think we lived about a month or so, and there was an election coming up, and we knew nothing about the area. And since the Democratic Party was putting on a candidates' night in one of the local schools, we decided that maybe I should be the one to go to that, since my husband would be tired after working. And he was willing to look after the 4 little children while I went to the meeting. And I was happy to go to a meeting. So I just finished getting everything laid out, pad of paper, my pen, and I looked up, and here was this marvelous, imposing woman with a large hat and very commanding but friendly manner. And she said, you know, we don't have a secretary. Would you be our secretary? And I said, well, and I found out later, no one ever disagreed with Edna unless you had a very strong will. So I became the secretary to the Democratic Party for that year. So that was how I got started volunteering in Pacifica, and it's been going on ever since. But Pacifica is built on volunteers anyway, and many, many people have helped to build this city to what it is. Among the interesting stories about Pacifica is the fact that not too many people talk about or even know about. And that is once in a while we do have snow and ice in Pacifica. And I believe it was about 1956. By this time, my children had started school, and I had been talked into doing some substitute teaching. I was teaching in a first grade that day, and we'd had snow the night before. The children were all excited, and they came in at first thing in the morning. And of course, in first grade, you have show and tell. And so I was just getting them all together, reading the roster of children there. And I noticed this little boy about halfway towards the back crying, really sobbing. And so I couldn't help but stop and say, well, what is the matter? And he said, someone took my snowball, and I was going to have it for show and tell. So we went back and looked in his desk. I knew him from Duluth, Minnesota. But sure enough, there was the little puddle in the bottom of his desk. And he just didn't realize that a snowball wouldn't last. He thought that was a prize thing to show today. But we've had a couple other times. We've had more than a couple. We've had, I'd say, about 4 or 5 that I can recall, dustings of snow in Pacifica, but that was an unusually strong dusting. About 1972, we had extremely cold weather all up and down the coast. And Pacifica had some very cold weather and some snow that year. Then about 2 or 3 years later, we had an even colder snow and colder air front come in. It actually froze really valuable vegetation all the way down to the ocean, which is very unusual. So we have had, and people's pipes burst. I see to this day, I know there was, up until just about a couple years ago, we still had a pipe that we had wrapped, but we haven't had any of that cold weather that bad since. However, I will say, we probably will have it happen again.